All right, we are live. Ladies, you guys ready?
Yep.
Yep.
Yo.
All right, let's do this. What's up, everybody? We are live. Welcome to the session of the Cover Clock Podcast. My name is Will. I'm the host of this show, the number one Polynesian podcast in the world. Oh, wow, let's get it, y'all. We have a great show for you guys tonight. Thank you so much. I can see the viewership already tuning up right now. I do hear a background echo of myself, so just in case you guys have me on another tab on your screen, please mute that real quick. But for everybody that's watching this right now, thank you so much for tuning in. I can see the viewership going up real quick. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're tuning in for the very first time, thank you so much for tuning in to my weekly Wednesday shows. Much love to you. And of course, to all my subscribers out there, people that always watch my shows weekly on every Wednesday, and people that always subscribe to my channel and support the content. Thank you so much for the love and support. You guys already know what to do. Smash and press that like and subscribe button real quick. Don't forget, I do have a disclaimer for everybody out there under the age of 18.
This content is not suitable for the children under the age of 18 without adult supervision. Please be advised.
Please be advised. Just want you to know we're gonna have some real adult conversations tonight. So if you're under the age of 18, just make sure you have some parental supervision, or just go to sleep. Go to sleep, y'all. But nevertheless, don't forget we do have the live chat. So I always appreciate you guys always tuning in every single week and always be on the live chat, always sharing your thoughts, opinions, and your feedback on based on the topics and the discussions we're gonna have tonight. So thank you so much, everybody on the live chat. Let's definitely get that live chat popping, y'all. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know where you guys tuning in from. I already see Ty, man. Ty, the Tokouso effect. Time to play. You already know, Ty, man. Thank you so much tuning in already on the show. Always the first one. Always tuning in. Thank you so much, Ty. Always be tuning in on the live show. You guys already know we're gonna have some great discussions tonight. Don't forget, this is a public show, so if you're watching this for the very first time, if you're not familiar with my content, I'm a big advocate for open discussions. So if you're watching this show, if you want to be part of this conversation, it is a public podcast, so I allow people to come on and add to the conversation. So I will post a public link on the live chat on YouTube. So if you're watching this from Facebook, if you're watching this from Twitch, you have to come to YouTube and go to the live chat. I'll pin it to the top of the screen. Click on the public link, and you can add on to the conversation. So if we're talking about certain things, whether you agree or disagree, I invite you guys to come on and be part of the conversation as well. I know there's a lot of haters out there, people disagree, a lot of people are triggered by my content.
How dare you?
You are like that out there. I invite you. I invite you to come on. Let's have a conversation. That's not a reason to hate somebody just because we have a different views, perspectives, and ideologies. Let's have an open conversation. All right. But nevertheless, that's pretty much all my YouTube stuff. Don't forget, we do have the super chat donations. Everybody that super chats financially donates to my channel, thank you so much for all your financial support and donations. Every single donation will be reinvested back to my content and build my podcast studio. I'm planning to launch my podcast studio in the Bay Area at the end of this year in 2023. So definitely every single donation we go towards it. And I'm going to have live podcasts with live guests on the podcast studio. So thank you so much for all your donation. If you want to drop a donation, the best way to do it, ask it through a question, ask it through a topic. So that way I put it on the top of the screen, I can read it out and I get a response and a live answer from the ladies. So if you have a specific question to the panel, or if you have a specific question to the ladies directly, you want to get their live response, ask it through a super chat donation. I'll be able to make you a priority, give you a shout out, and I'll also be read it and put it on the screen as well. But that's pretty much it. We've done all the YouTube stuff. I'm ready to go right into the show and discuss the topic tonight. First and foremost, I'm gonna give a shout out to the ladies tonight, the Pacific Island ladies. The time and be part of this conversation, tuning in from all different parts of the world. So I'm very excited to hear their opinions and perspectives based on the topics that we're gonna discuss tonight. But ladies, first and foremost, a lot of you guys are familiar faces, but a lot of new faces here tonight. So a lot of the people watching this right now, they probably know who you are. So they want to know who you are. So can you guys go ahead and give yourselves a quick introduction, real quick? I'll start with our newest guest, our first time being on the show. I'll start with you guys real quick. I'll start it off with you, Luisa. Luisa, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Mahalo. My name is Luisa Sipinga. I am currently here in Kansas City, but originally now staying in American Samoa. I am a new mom to a beautiful, handsome boy, and I am a upcoming entrepreneur. Hopefully, we'll see what the new year has for me.
Right, all right. No worries, Luisa. Thank you so much, and congrats on your baby boy.
Thank
But I'm excited to have you on tonight's show. Thank you so much. All right, pass it on to Leesah. Go ahead, Leesah. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hey, you guys. My name is Leesah Havili. I am from San Bruno, Bay Area, but currently residing in East Palo Alto. I'm a mental health advocate, a fashion enthusiast, a foodie, a wife, a mother, and a do whatever the fuck you want to do advocate.
All right,
There.
that's the type of energy I'm talking about. All right, I like it already. Thank you so much, Leesah. I know, of course, rep from the San Bruno. I grew up in San Bruno as well, so we got rep the 650. Thank you so much, also Leesah, for being on tonight. I'm excited to hear that I don't give a do what the fuck we want energy. I like that.
Yeah.
We're gonna have some. We're gonna have some do the fuck we want type Dalanos tonight.
Yes, that's right.
All right, thank you so much, Leesah. I'll pass it on to you, Monica. Monica, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hey, my name is Monica, last name Pahulu. I am a healthcare worker for the San Francisco Department of Public Health. I studied it, love it. Also a project coordinator for a nonprofit called Dalai Lama in San Mateo. Yeah, here I am.
All right, no worries. All right, thank you so much, Monica, for being on tonight's show. And obviously, if you people that watch my channel, support my channel, Monica was like the first person I've ever interviewed for my podcast. So if you go to the very beginning, scroll all the way back to the beginning of my podcast, she was actually my first interview.
I know. Good times.
Yeah, good time. So Monica's an original A1 day one of the podcast, of the Golf Club podcast. Big shout out, much love to Monica. But I'm very excited to have you on tonight's show and join us tonight. I'll pass it on to Lani. You probably already seen Lani on a previous episode. So Lani, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
My name is Lani Ciliato, but people call me Lani because Lani's shorter. I'm originally from Hawaii, from the Big Island, but I currently live in Anchorage, Alaska.
Oh, Big Island.
Yes. I'm a stay-at-home mom of 3 kids. It drives me crazy. My husband is from American Samoa, and even though I don't work currently, I'm planning to go into the mental health field after my youngest goes off to kindergarten. So yeah, that's my plans.
All right, no worries.
Lani.
All right, thank you so much, Lani. I enjoyed having you last time. We had some good conversations last time, so I'm definitely excited to hear more of what you have to add on tonight's conversation. And last but not least, one of my favorite guests, always been here in a couple episodes. I don't know which episode this is for her, but you probably already know, familiar with her. But go ahead, Trudy. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
All right. Good evening. I am Trudy Tuitasi. I'm originally from Compton, California, but I now reside here in Utah, West Jordan, Utah. I am married. Been married to my sweetheart. Actually, we've been together for 15 years, but married for 8 years so far. No kids yet. But yeah, I am an entrepreneur in health and beauty, actually. So yeah, I really love what I do. Yeah, that's pretty much me in a little nutshell for y'all. But yeah, thank you.
All right, no worries. All right, thank you, Trudy. Thank you, Trudy, for always being here tonight, and I always appreciate you having you on the show. But yeah, ladies, thank you so much for all the great introductions. We'll go right into it. You guys already know the topic that we're going to discuss tonight. Does the pressure or perception under women getting married lead to failed marriages? Obviously, this topic was brought on to me by one of my female followers who subscribes to my channel. She's specifically on there. She wanted me to talk about it and bring light to it. A lot of times she felt that A lot of times, Pacific Islander women, there's a big expectation for them culturally, or whether it's from your religion or whether it's from your family, traditionally from the culture itself. Is a big expectation to get married, and she said that a lot of her friends feel like, and she's a little bit younger, I think early 20s, but she feels like that there's this big pressure to get married. And a lot of times she said that based on her experience with her own family, she said a lot of times they often see with the older women, they oftentimes they get married from because of this pressure, and it oftentimes leads to toxic relationships or leads to failed relationships. Or especially when it comes to marriage. So obviously, if you guys watch my channel, you guys know I'm a big statistic person. Statistically in America, the younger you get married, the more likelihood it leads to divorce. Um, and of course, you guys all know we're all Pacific Islanders here. You guys already know if you're not married by 25, and if you go to a family reunion, you're pretty much gonna be asked, "Where's your partner?" Okay, Osmali. Where's your boyfriend? Where's your girlfriend? These conversations always end up coming to light. And but yeah, so I want obviously for me personally and for myself, I think marriage, deciding who you're gonna spend the rest of your life with, and deciding who you're gonna have kids with is probably one of the two biggest decisions you're ever gonna make in your life. It will have a big impact to your life. So I believe that these, and of course, you guys know this, especially under women, when it comes to the topics of dating, sex, and relationships, it's often taboo within our families and within our community. So a lot of times when we grow up as Pacific Islander men and women, we don't even talk about dating, sex, relationships with our family, with our parents. But then we're expected just to get married and then just go right into marriage and dating and sex and relationships without any practical knowledge and experience. So for me, that's one of the observations I see, that probably one of the reasons why a lot of times you can fail and we struggle with it, because we never talked about it early, especially through our adolescent years, to prepare us for it. And thought we just expected to throw us in there, throw us in the fire and figure it out, right? And obviously, if you've been in a relationship, if you've been in a marriage, and if you talk to people who've been in relationships and long-term marriages, they tell you 100% all the time, it's hard work. It is not easy, right? It is not what you see on social media, the all the highlights of what a relationship is, but people don't realize behind closed doors, behind the scenes, our relationships is extremely takes a lot of hard work and discipline, effort, but we're expected to just go into that without any kind of conversation from our parents and the people, especially when we're younger. I seen Ty said, he posted on the live comment, "I stopped doing family functions because I'm usually the first one. The old folks ask for money." LOL. All right.
Okay.
Ty, did they also ask you where's your if you're single, when you're getting married? Because I know you mentioned before in the live chat that you're single. So do you get that question as well? But thank you for sharing that, Ty. But yeah, but ladies, I want to ask you. I want to ask you guys. That's gonna be the focal point for tonight's discussion. Obviously, we're gonna hear your point of views, and also don't forget, if there's anything that you want to add on to the conversation, don't be feel free to bring that as well. But let's dive right into that topic. But I'll start with my newest guest. I'll start with you, Luisa. Luisa, what do you think about it? And go ahead.
Definitely the younger generation. Well, no, I think just our Polynesian people, they just, especially if you grow up with our island backgrounds, we all come from like a religious background, so it's just kind of expected. I grew up in a not religious but church background, I'll say. But yeah, so I had my son out of wedlock. So that was like a huge thing for me that my parents kept like, "Hey, you guys gotta get married." And I'm like, especially, okay, so like living in American Samoa, that is definitely the most like number one thing you usually do when it comes to having a child out of wedlock. And I saw a lot of people who would like get into marriage like just because of that situation, and like it ends up just failing, or not even a year and it's like already done and over. People with different people, I'm just like, what's the point of a marriage? Like, I'd rather just wait, kind of get to know the person a little bit more, and eventually you may just get with the person, but don't just rush just because. It's better to get to know the person before you like go down that road. That's a very important road for your child.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much for sharing that, Luisa. I'll pass it on to you, Leesah. What do you think? What's your thoughts about it, Leesah? Go ahead.
I mean, this conversation is pretty difficult to have, especially because you're like a first time immigrant. So your parents are coming straight from Tonga. They're trying to assimilate in this Western society where they're trying to figure things out. And so those deep conversations are never had. And so when your parents don't lace you up, like to know the triggers, to know other people's triggers or even your triggers, or to even understand who you are as a person and what you like in an individual, it's pretty difficult, right? Because you go into relationships and you're like, what the fuck is going on? So then so you're being young, not knowing who you are, and then jumping into a relationship where both of you guys don't know who you guys are. That's like a foundation of like disaster. So what I suggest is actually getting to know who you really are first. And then once you do that, then you'll actually go to like whatever, like dating scene and actually really know like, okay, this is what I want in a man. This is what I'm not going to take from a man. And so from going there, I think it's a better way of like understanding yourself and others.
Okay, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Leesah. Leesah, a quick question I want to ask because I know you're married, right? You mentioned already you were married. What is something that you found out, but in marriage that you had no idea when you finally got into it, that you wish that maybe your parents had that conversation with you early or with somebody to kind of prepare you for it? Like, what is something that you learned by getting married?
Knowing your triggers and the red flags. Understanding like red flags in a man, so that you could like know that you have options. And those red flags is an indicator of you to like bounce. Triggers, your own triggers, like especially when you're young and you're arguing, understanding those triggers and knowing how to walk away. So I think those are the two main things is knowing your own triggers as well as the red flags of the man that you're actually dating.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, Leesah, do you feel like a lot of Pacific Islander women stay in these type of relationships? And do you notice that based on your own observations, like these, even though you see, like you looking from the outside, you see the triggers, you see the red flags, but they stay. Like you see that, you do see that a lot?
I think it comes from the generation of our parents.
Yeah.
They stay in relationships, even though you sit back as a child and then you do see those red flags within that relationship and how toxic Polynesian relationships are. They still stay together because it's cultural. It's always stay with that person. But I feel like being like you grow up in the Western society, you know you have options.
Yeah.
So I think I really stress the fact of young ladies understanding your options and not staying in a relationship if it doesn't help you thrive in life.
Yeah. All right. No worries. We're definitely gonna come back. I like that one, ladies. You guys have options. I'm gonna circle back later and dive more on that topic because I think that's really, really important for especially Pacific Islander women to know they have options. Because sometimes I talk to I know a lot of Pacific Islanders women personally that that idea and that concept never comes to their mind about leaving, right? Because they've been, whether it was religion, whether it was indoctrination of their family, the beliefs or the religion, like they just don't think they should leave. But that is an option. All right. So thank you so much for sharing that, Leesah. And I already like it already, Leesah. I really like that talk already.
Yes.
Okay.
I like it.
Love it.
All right. I'll bring it on to you, Monica. Monica, go ahead. What's your thoughts about the topic that we're talking tonight? Go ahead, Monica.
I think it's important. I think like Leesah said, and to piggyback off of Leesah, when you're a person that is first generation here, and your parents are, and your family is gung ho on following religious traditions of marriage and so forth, right? It becomes pressure, and I think it's important for young ladies to know, or just ladies in general to know that, like, you got to be careful because I feel like it's kind of like social. It's a social norm, so it's institutionalized in us women to feel like we have to abide by a construct, and you know, eh, you really need to only be marrying somebody if you're in love with them. Like, like Cupid had better hit you with an arrow. I mean, in order to, because marriage is a huge responsibility, and it actually isn't. We don't gain anything out of it most of the time in the nowadays. So I think that it's an important topic. I think that it's. I'm not against marriage, but I am. I do see that there are patterns of just wanting to do something to do it, and you know, I don't think I don't think it's good. Me personally, I mean, I haven't had that issue. So I mean, I haven't really been pressured like that in my life because I grew up with a single mother and two grandmas that like are highly intelligent women. So you know, intelligent in the fact of like more. They're just more realistic, right? I mean, intelligence can be seen in different types of ways, but I just remember my grandma telling me when I was young, my mom's mother, like, you know, back in the day, we married because it's kind of, we didn't have these options that women have now. But she was like, if I grew up now, she was like, I would have just not married your grandpa. Like, I would have been out and about. I would have been a movie star. Like, it's just, it's just that's me. That's what happened to me. And so, and I'm fortunate in that sense because I feel like the pressure that island women. I mean, you don't even have to be an island woman to feel pressure like this that women go through. It takes a mental toll on any woman to have that type of pressure. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
All right, no worries. Thank you, Monica. I appreciate that. I thank you for sharing. I see Lucky with Langi Yofa. She shared that, bruh, laugh my ass up. That's always their automatic assumption if you're single for what they consider too long. LOL. All right, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And then Ty said, I've been engaged 3 times, but always ended those relationships. My dad used to think I was gay whenever I was single. I feel the struggle, man. We are polys, man. You already know, if you're single, you go to family reunions, people are gonna think some type of way or have some kind of prejudgment, because you're not married, right? You're going against the norm. So thank you for sharing. Yeah, appreciate you guys on the live chat. Don't forget, if you love the video. Oh, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna post the public link real quick. And then you guys, if you're watching this right now, if you want to add on to the conversation, you guys can join on. But let's continue the conversation. I'll post a public link right now on the YouTube live. I'll pass it on to Lani. Lani, what do you think? I'm interested to hear your thoughts, Lani, because on our last conversation, I know you did share that you got married because you're Mormon and you just got thrown into your first marriage and you felt that pressure. So can you kind of elaborate on that and talk more about that? Go ahead, Lani.
Oh yeah. So for those that don't know what I said in the last podcast, but I have my oldest daughter is from my previous ex-husband, and I was born and raised in the LDS or the Mormon Church. My mom wasn't; she was converted later on in life, but I was raised by her primarily. My dad passed away when I was very young, so she was a single mother. I had very like strong female figures in my life, so that was never a problem. But when I got into college, I got into BYU Hawaii, and I was young, I wanted to have fun, so I started going out and doing things maybe I shouldn't have been doing at 18, and that's when I met my ex-husband, and I ended up becoming pregnant maybe like 3 months after I met him. So, and the complicated situation about that was that my ex-husband was actually from a different country. So he's from Papua New Guinea, which is part of Melanesia. And when I was pregnant, I was kind of told by my not just, and it wasn't just my family, but it was like my church leaders at the time. They're like, well, it's either you have the baby, you get married to this guy that I barely knew, or I give my child up for adoption. And as you know, as Pacific Islanders, we don't like adopting your child outside of your family is a very like taboo topic. Like, you don't do that. Like, you can give it to like your cousin or your sister or your grandma, but we don't just like randomly put up our kids up to go live with some, Balangi person in, I don't know, New York, you know. Um and so I didn't want to give up my kid. I was like, all right, well, I'll marry him. So we got married, and it we both got married to each other for different reasons. I think for me, I got married because I wanted my child to be raised with their father in their life. And because of his immigration status, if we didn't get married, he would have to go back home to his country. So I was like, okay, well, if we get married, then maybe we can figure this out, raise a family. But that didn't happen, and he ended up becoming very physically and emotionally abusive when we were married, and we ended up getting a divorce about a year later after we first got together. So I do think that a lot of girls, because I know other girls in my community that were told the same thing, like either you get married or you give your child up for adoption, and for me it was never an option for me to just give away my kid. So I do think the discussion needs to be had, because I feel like that, like, like how most of you said, like marriage is a huge decision. And I currently have a niece who's going through the same situation. And there are so many people in our family who are like, well, you go over to the guy's house, might as well marry him. And I'm like, no, don't tell her that. Like, they barely know. Like, she's seven, I think she's 19 years old, but they're like, get married, you basically have a kid together. And I tell her, no, don't get married. If things work out and you guys get together, you guys can make it work, and your relationship's not toxic, then yeah, get married. But you don't need to get married, because I don't think people realize this, but it's it's a lot easier to get married than it is to get divorced. Like me and my ex-husband, we were married for maybe a year, and it took like almost the same amount of time to get a divorce. And at that point, like, we weren't together for so long, so we didn't really have, a lot of things in our name that most couples do. But still though, it's hard. It's a very emotional and physical trying time when you go through that process. And so yeah, I feel like I believe in marriage, and there is a part of me that I believe that, kids should be raised in a home where they do have two parents to an extent. But if that means that both the parents are toxic to each other, or, if there's some kind of issue, then no, but a part of me still believes that, children still need both their mother and their father, but they don't necessarily have to be like married and together, if that makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
All right, no worries. All right, yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Lani. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I'm pass it on to last but not least, Trudy. Trudy, what's your thoughts on tonight's discussion?
Oh wow. Thank you all for your shares so far. I'm like jotting all these notes down from you guys. But yeah, man. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go into my personal story. Like I said, I've been with my husband for 15 years. So I've been with him basically since I was 18 years old. um and yeah, so I grew up in a strict home as well. Like my daddy, yeah, old school. You know how those old school crazy dads are. They're hella strict. So
Mhm.
yeah. So it was pretty much like his way or the, basically his way or the highway kind of thing. Like, we're gonna get married the way I want you to get married. Um, and I'm also a member as well of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So my idea, honestly, because I was raised in the church my whole life. My idea of a marriage was to marry in the temple. To be honest, like I always wanted that for myself, but obviously that didn't happen this time around, right? Because I was already dating this guy since I was 18. Doing things we weren't supposed to be doing, right? But and and then of course my dad's like, "Nah, we're gonna get married this way. You're gonna have a big wedding at the church, and bring like 300 people, or whatever." And I'm like, "What the hell?" I'm like, well, "No, I can't afford it." So like me and my husband, well, fiance at the time, we went to my dad and like try to talk to him about, basically doing it our way. Just a small thing, only like only close relative. That's it. No other extra, fifth cousin or whatever the hell, extended uncle, whoever the hell that we don't even know. It's like, we're like, no, we don't want all that. We just want only just like probably like 80 people, basically, like was our list. No, not happening with this guy. He was like, hell no, we're not doing that. If you want to do it that way, you guys, I don't want to see you again, blah, blah, blah. You know how that goes. It just went off, basically. It went crazy. Everything went south. I started crying and all kind of stuff. Like you guys said, you go through a big emotional and spiritual, like, yeah. It's just a war, basically. A whole war going on inside of your brain and in your and in your set, like, just body, period. It literally, it can drain you. Just like, so anyways, long story short, we just ended up going to the bishop's office and just got married. That's basically how we got married. It was just me, my witness, his witness, and that's it. And then the bishop, and that was it in the bishop's office, because it was just crazy, like chaos. Everybody trying to like say this and this and this. Or like, no, 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 no. I'm not gonna let nobody dictate what I want to do. Even though it was hard because we grew up, as Polynesians, we want to, you know, um, basically just like make everybody happy, right? At least that's how I was. I really wanted everyone to be happy. I wanted to make my dad happy, my aunt, and everybody in my family happy, and his family happy too. But we're like, you know what? Forget it. In my head, I was just like, forget it. I'm done. I'm tired. It's so like I was already dealing with a lot of other crap because I'm also a dialysis patient. So so I was just like going through all kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, screw this. I got other things to worry about. But we loved each other, bottom line, and we just wanted to be together. That's all we wanted. So we literally sat at the table with my dad, trying to talk everything through, but it didn't go that way. And this guy just, wanted to do it anyway. So that's me.
Thank you, thank you for
Sorry.
sharing that.
That's my little story. But anyways, I just wanted to share that because I was 25, obviously, when I got married. But so it was hard in the beginning because I never lived with my husband before I got married. So when you live with someone for the first time, it's different than when you're dating. Because you just come see each other, but now you're like literally in each other's face every freaking day. Just like, so you see like a lot of things that you wouldn't had seen, right, from when you were dating, like behind the scenes, like the toilet seat being up all the time, the freaking tube of the toothpaste thing off all the time, and all that. Like, it was bothering me, I'm not gonna lie. Just like, so that's kind of what I wish I would have learned, like kind of in the process of getting married, is like learning that learning to know what really matters and what doesn't, like not sweating all those little, details, because you got to learn to look past those things, because you got to look at the person for who they truly are, and if they're a good person, yes, and they love you and they treat you right, then you okay. And then just like, but yeah, I was getting irritated about, I would get literally really mad about those little things. And then I'm like, who the hell did I marry? But yeah, that's something that I've learned though, like along the way, on top of, the red flags and all that, like like Leesah mentioned. Yeah. And knowing yourself first. I love that too. You got to know, who you are. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And what you're going to accept. So anyways, that's me. Sorry. Just like.
Of course. Thank you for sharing your story, Trudy. I do want to circle back. Because obviously the main focus of every discussion, I always want to focus on the solution. So obviously, there is a pressure. So my conversation with you ladies, my question is like, what is the solution to kind of alleviate this pressure from women, specifically women, so they can make good choices in their partner? Because obviously, we all agree here that marriage and having children is one of the biggest decisions you're ever going to make that's going to impact your life long term. So, hindsight's always 2020. Some of you guys are married, some of you guys are single, but you've all had experiences dealing with men. You had experiences having children. You had experiences being in relationships, whether it's intimate or just formal relationships. So, I mentioned before, like a lot of times we don't have the conversation early in our life. There's no preparation for a lot of young women. A lot of times, you're just sold, that dream. You just get married. Having it's happily ever after. But I guess for all the Pacific girls that's watching this right now, my question to you ladies, like, what should they know? Obviously, Leesah, you mentioned triggers. Some of you guys mentioned making sure to know if you're compatible, knowing yourself. So I want to focus more on the preparation part. But, what should a Pacific girl know before getting into a long-term committed relationship with a man, especially if she wants to get married with him long-term, based on what you know so far? And if you had to share this information with your younger self, this is what you would say to your younger self. So yeah, I want to open up that topic for you guys. Like, what those conversations that we should have had with our parents. What should girls out there know, and what should they expect? What should they understand when it comes to choosing a good man and choosing a long-term partner and going into marriage? I'll start with you, Leesah. What do you think? What if there's a Pacific girl that's watching this right now, a young girl, and what should she know? What's your take? What's your take? What's your advice you would give to her? This is things that you should know if this is something that you want, if you're looking for a guy you want long term and potentially want to marry.
I would say, of course, knowing yourself, but then that takes time. That for sure takes time. Even if you're in your 30s, or 40s, you're forever evolving. So that takes time. Second thing, you know how sex is so taboo in our culture?
Yeah.
Having that conversation as a young female would have helped me tremendously in knowing how to give consent, what do I want, and how is that gonna. The thing is, how sometimes you just do things men want you to do because one, you don't truly know how to navigate through that. That type of conversation is what young girls need to have. Sex education, mental health, really knowing who you are, and then literally like looking for a man. The greatest attributes a man could have is see how he treats his mom, see how he treats his sisters, see how he treats the women that is surrounding his life. And if he's coming in with a child, see if he's even active in his child's life. That's a big trigger. If a man is not active in his child's life, get the fuck out of Dodge. Get out of there. Because how do you, because how do you expect him to do that, give that same energy to you and your child? So sex education, having confidence within yourself, learning consent, knowing when to say no, and it's okay to say no. Main attributes in a man is consistency, Loyalty, of course, everybody wants loyalty. But I think like consistency is key within a relationship.
Yeah.
So, just some main little attributes you could actually see within another man.
All right, thank you. Can you, if you don't mind, Leesah, can you dive in a little bit more when it comes to the consent part? I think that's a really important topic for both men and women to understand consent, because I've had conversations with with women on past podcasts when because they didn't understand what consent is, because we don't never talk about sex, and then you are in
Yeah.
that situation and the man is asserting himself on you. I like, if you never had that conversation, a lot of ways, like it's like you don't know what to do, right? And
Yeah.
naturally, especially if that's your boyfriend, I think as human beings, like we've written as specific honors, we're taught to please, please other people, put other people above your needs. A lot of times, when I have conversations with women, like they don't want to do it, but they just let it happen, and then of course, there's consequences to it. But can you dive more into that? Because I think that's really important to bring to light when it comes to consent.
Yeah, just knowing your boundaries. Um, Even in the midst of being in that situation where it's like hot and heavy with your significant other, and then instantly, if you don't want to do it, it's okay to say no.
Yeah.
And don't feel pressured by a man. When you're young, you're in a situation where you tend to feel pressure from a man, and you want to please him. And oh my God, if I don't do this, he might leave me. Um,
Yeah.
that conversation needs to be had. Women, please, young females, don't feel pressured to doing things you don't want to do. In that moment, if you don't feel right, that means it's not right, and keep it
Right.
pushing. And if a man continues to push the issue on wanting to do more, and then, men tend to demean you in that situation.
Mhm.
They down talk you, they make you feel less than. And
Right.
in that point, sometimes you could get into it and be like, okay, you know what? All right, I'll do it. No, stay true to yourself and who you are. So I think that's the conversation, is knowing that you can say no and it's okay to say no.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for, yeah. And also, I
Yeah.
would add on to this. Also, I would add on, Leesah, when you say no, how a man reacts to it, it will be a big reflection on his character. And that's
Yes.
if you say no, he doesn't respect that. That's a big red flag.
Right.
Big red flag. And that's in a dating scene. Imagine when you guys are married, right?
Yes.
So so I think that's really, really important to respect each other's boundaries. And sometimes I tell girls, like, if you like, I always tell girls all the time, like, if you say no to a guy, a good man with a good character and morals, like, we respect that, right?
Right.
But if he tries to go, if he tries to shame you, like you said, shame you, make you feel bad, then he's pretty much like, that's a manipulator right there. He's trying to manipulate you. That's a sign. That's
Yes.
a
Mhm.
sign for a whole series of issues long term in a relationship. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Leesah. I really appreciate that. I think that's a conversation that definitely needs to be had when it comes to consent for both men and women. I'll pass it on to you, Luisa. Luisa, what do you think? Based on your experiences in relationships, based on what you experienced so far, what if there's a Pacific Islander girl, young girl right now, what should they know before they go into a relationship with men long term?
Something I'd say definitely that it took me a while that I had to like really step back and like, no. I think as long as you have peace, like with whatever the situation is, you should be okay. But when you have like a gut feeling that you don't like, er, red flag, you should get out, you should really follow that. I feel like that's something I always like ignored before, but now I'm like, if it messes with my peace, bye. I'm not gonna let that, slide, because obviously if I'm not feeling good about it, that's just shouldn't go down that road. So definitely that if you don't feel peace with it, definitely do not try to go for it. I feel like a lot of our girls are pressured, I don't know, with our generation and everything that comes on, to get into these things. And then of course with the whole marriage situation, everyone wants that like nice wedding and all. So they kind of just go for it, but they really aren't ready for it.
Okay.
Let's see what else. Definitely had to learn that. Learn yourself. Definitely, um, if you don't agree on something in that, like, and it's something kind of really important that, you know, down the line, that's where you, like, your goals in life, like later in life, you definitely need to talk about that. Because if your ending goals don't match up, it's kind of a waste of time, because eventually you guys are going to want to keep going toward that goal. And if you guys are like blocking each other from those goals, it doesn't work out. Usually doesn't work out, because you're going to want to go to whatever you're passionate about. And if you don't go down that, you kind of be like, oh, I regret being in this in relationship, regret doing this because I didn't get to follow whatever I was passionate about. That's kind of one thing that I've been kind of figuring out lately. That's kind of my things. I definitely tell any young person, girls especially, follow your passion, make sure you have peace about whatever you're deciding on.
All right, no worries. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Luisa. And we're definitely I'm gonna circle back on the piece. I do want to dive into that a little bit later. Thank you so much. And don't forget, guys, we do have the public chat. I posted on the YouTube live chat. So if you guys want to jump on the conversation, feel free to come on. I would love to hear and add on to the conversation, tonight's conversation. I'll pass it on to you, Monica. Monica, what do you think? What should they know? What should they know to all the young girls out there?
I think everybody mentioned very real things that need to be learned as a young lady out here. Protection is a huge one. Unfortunately, you don't know yourself. You're going to say yes, you're going to say no. I don't know what you'll say, but all I will tell you is STDs for women under the age of 25 is a lot higher. Whether you're in a, one-on-one relationship or not. And so I think that, that needs to be spoken about. For one, gonorrhea is due to antibiotic resistance, which is like a form of chemical that's in pretty much everything that you ingest, whether it be meat products, whether it be medications. Due to that, gonorrhea there's a resistance to the medications that we have now. Okay. And so I think that it's important for young women to know in any relationship, whether it be marriage or not marriage, that being tested and using protection is very, very important. If your partner doesn't want to do that, then you're going to have to wonder what's going on. Obviously, there's something going on there, and that's not something you should trust, especially under that particular age range. I think that there's just, to piggyback back off of Leesah, there's a lot of communication that our community doesn't want to do. I mean, when it comes to sex, that's not something I definitely didn't talk to any of the women about that, my family. There's, mentioning about like being with the guy or not being with the guy, but when it came to like sex and saying no and saying yes, I think that's something that we all tiptoe around. But I don't think it's something that we should tiptoe around. I think this generation, we know that now. So I think for the younger generation, it's going to be easy for us to kind of implement, some of the knowledge that we didn't have growing up. And so I think that that's really something that's progressing right now. But as far as protection, and even starting and even in relationships, it's important. HPV right now is a huge thing with women. Men have it, they have no symptoms of it. They give it to women. Women end up having it for a year, 2, 3, and then contracting cervical cancer. I think that getting the HPV vaccination is extremely important. Right now, they've actually prolonged the age range. So any woman from the age of 12 to about 46 or 48, I believe, can get the vaccination. It's 3 shots. Before it was 2. And so I highly urge any woman right now to get that, because it's something that's not, it happens. And it's something that we can protect ourselves from in the long run. So yeah, that's going to be my 2 cents.
All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Monica, and I appreciate bringing up the STDs. I know that STDs is something we barely even talk about within the Pacific Islander community, and I've talked to a lot of girls. They say, especially if the guys are very religious, sometimes like a lot of girls, oh, I trust him. He's a priest
Don't
holder.
do it. I'm kidding. I mean, I'm just saying, like, you definitely, because there's a lot of resources out there, and regardless of whatever conversations or whatever feelings you have, you're gonna have to set that aside and think about it first. Because if you do end up doing whatever you want, that's fine. But there's a part of your responsibility to be responsible for yourself in that sense. So
yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for bringing that topic up. And ladies, if you find it hard to say no, maybe just buy a chastity belt. Back in the old days.
HIV vaccinations, they can be given at any clinic, depending on what insurance you have. I believe if you have Medi-Cal, they'll be able to give those shots for free. And like I said, they prolonged the age range now, so now it's no longer edited at 26. It's prolonged to about 48. So I mean that's a really wide protection range. And then also just making sure that you're like young girls get it, because you definitely don't want to have them contract that later on, because that happens, like it does. So yeah.
Now there was a girl on a previous podcast I did, like I think a week or 2 weeks ago. She shared on the podcast that she has genital herpes. And she shared how every single time when the man wants to get intimate, she has to share that with them every single time, and then every single time the guy is like, oh, he turns them off, and then they ghost. So it's really, really hard on her, because and I applaud her for being honest, because a lot of people won't be honest; they'll just do it, right, and tell them later. But she said it's really, really hard, because every single time she brings it up, most guys don't want to even come near her after, and of course they spread to other men as well in her social circle. So it's just she's like being ostracized within the dating market within men. So it's tough out there. So I appreciate you for bringing that up, Monica. The STD, that's a good conversation. That's something that needs to be talked about. I know some comments to Lucky with Alangiofa. She said, Luisa, period. If you ain't about that piece, you gotta go. Yeah, all right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Ty said, both men and women need to do a better job at scoping, vetting out their potential mates. Yeah, exactly. That's why it's important to have these type of conversations with your family, so you know how to vet. I think for a lot of times we don't have this conversation. We don't know what to do or how to vet or see the signs or the red flags or the triggers that we've discussed. But yeah, thank you so much.
Definitely. If you want, like, I have the stats too on that. If anybody's interested in looking for that, I can give that to you. Well, I'm in public health.
Can you drop the links? Can you drop the links in the live chat?
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll pass it on to Lani. Lani, what do all the young girls out there that's watching right now, like what should they know before they run into your ex-husband one day?
Well, I mean, so I have 2 daughters. My oldest is 11 and my youngest is 9. And I've definitely had these conversations in my head, but I've also, I've talked to them kind of, about certain things. And one of the things that I talk to my daughters about is, having getting them to have confidence in their decisions as themselves, and knowing, you know, because like for me, when I got married to my first husband, I didn't have the reason why I got married was because I didn't have confidence in to say, no, this isn't a good idea to get married, because all these other, you know, adults in my life were kind of pushing me in that direction. So when I think of, the topic, I want my daughters to have that kind of self-confidence where if they know something is wrong or if they feel like it's not right, no matter if mom, dad, grandpa, grandma, anybody in their life kind of tells them, no, you should, because I did, I want them to have that confidence to say, no, just because you did it doesn't mean I have to. I
Yeah.
don't have to repeat that generational cycle that, everybody else before me did. And I think another thing that needs to be talked about, and I don't hear a lot of people talk about, but is about culture, because as a native Hawaiian that married a Samoan, or I know a lot of Palangis that marry, us islanders. It, there are certain parts of our culture that some people, like I know some girls like they're dating like, oh yeah, I met this really nice, poly boy. He's so cute and dark and handsome. They love it at first, but when Fa'ala Velaves and funerals come around, then that's when they're all like, what did I get myself into? So I feel like you need to have those type of conversations, like about finances, about what is your husband's or your future husband's view about you working outside of the home, like what does that look like, what does like family issues, because one thing that I find is that you come with generational trauma and your potential husband probably comes with generational trauma too. And so I'm not saying that he needs to figure it out, but like for my husband, he comes from a long line. My current husband, he comes from a long line of alcoholics. Like his grandpa drank himself to death. You know what I mean? So as someone that's marrying into that kind of family, that's something that I need to be aware of, not just for my marriage, but for my kids, because alcoholism can be at times genetic,
Yeah.
or even like with like I think it was Leesah who talked about how men treat their mothers and their sisters, and I I'm gonna have to disagree to agree, like agree to disagree, because you know I know that there are women out there are mothers out there who are toxic as f, they're toxic as fuck. And so if there are those type of women in your husband's life or in your potential spouse's life and he's trying to get rid of those, I want my husband or my future husband to cut that cord. You know what I mean? Because I mean, and I'm not saying this to downplay, mother-in-laws and stuff, but there are some moms out there that just aren't right in the head, or there are some
Yes.
sisters there, that aren't right in the head too. So as much as I want my husband to respect his family and his parents, I also want my husband to recognize like the toxic part of his family, just like how I do. So not only is he am I creating boundaries with myself, and knowing what I want, but that my husband knows his boundaries and what he wants and things that he needs to look out for. Because you can't have a marriage if both of you aren't on the same page. And so, also going with like the talking, about sex, like, yes, I think sex is important, but I also feel like when you're married, you still need to get checked for STDs. If for those of you moms, that every time, you go when you're a Hapai, they ask you, do you want to get, a swab? Yeah, get a swab. Like those things are important as well. So I feel like there's a lot of things that, that needs to be talked about with our girls. But And sometimes I wish that I knew about these things before I got married to my ex-husband. But then at the same time, I've had to realize that my mom and the adults in my life didn't know better, you know, and that's the sad thing. And it's not their fault, they were raised in a different time, in a different generation. But as a mom now, I know that it's my responsibility to teach my daughters and my nieces or whoever else, or even my nephews, you know, what not what they should and shouldn't do, but what are some things that could better prepare them for making these monumental decisions. Because like I said before, you can, getting together and breaking up is easy, but getting a divorce is a whole different ball game. So yeah.
No, Lani, thank you for sharing that. I think you brought up a very critical component. Looking, of course, there's a lot of guys, a lot of passive Islander men, and a lot of tall, handsome. A lot of times, because a lot of girls they fall mostly in love with the superficial attributes, but he brought up very complete. But look at his family, where he comes from, right? If you look at his, if he comes from a family of alcoholics, if you come from a family of womanizers, if he comes from a family, because whatever he grows up in, that's going to be his beliefs and what he believes,
Mhm.
what's normal, what he thinks is normal behavior, right? So he brought up a very great important piece. Look at the family, because I think it is important to see. Sometimes there's always that old quote where sometimes the apple doesn't fall away from the tree. So a lot of times
Yeah.
because I do see sometimes some of my girlfriends like they would be with this guy, and then I'm like, and they complain about his behavior, but I was like, look at this family. That's his normal. That's what he grew up, and that's what considered normal behavior. So that's why
Yeah.
he acts out that way. Yeah, wanted to add on something, Lani? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I also wanted to say, it goes for men too, because
Yeah.
I know in our culture, like we love to joke around with the boys, like smack them, hit them, like you look so ugly, we love doing that to our men, the ones that we're really close with. But at the same time, do you want your future daughter-in-law to call your son ugly and to punch him or whatever? You know what I mean? So I think it goes both ways.
Both.
And
Yeah. Of
another,
course.
and then yeah. And another thing too is like with my ex-husband, he came from a abusive background. Like he told me the story of when he was 10 years old. He didn't want to go to school. Like as a mom, like fussy the kid or hit him or whatever. But no, his mom full on stabbed him in the leg with a machete. And this,
That's
and he
Oh,
was,
sheesh.
yeah, and he was 10. And I
Damn.
should have seen that, and that should have been a red flag. But obviously at that time it wasn't. I don't know what the hell was wrong with me. But and so when we were going through our own abuse situation, I remember him telling his mom, and he was like, yeah, my wife's complaining about me beating on her. And my mother-in-law at the time, my ex-mother-in-law, not my current mother-in-law, my ex-mother-in-law told him, well, is she bleeding? And he was like, no. And she's like, so then why is she complaining for? It's not
damn.
like, you hit her in the head in the rock with the head, or you hit her in the head with the
Oh,
rock, or you kicked her in the stomach. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that to him was normal, where
Mm.
he's from. Like that's like his normal. So yeah. Sorry.
No, 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 no. It's really, really important to look beyond the person, look at his family, because that what he every single behavior that he acts out towards you is what he saw growing up as a child. So it's a good way to kind of understand him. And yeah, and then of course, thank you for sharing. If for all the women out there, if the guy tells you he got stabbed by his mom or by machete, that should be a red flag.
Run as fast as you can. Like never don't look back.
Thank you for sharing that, Alani. And yeah, I'll pass it on to Trudy. Trudy, what's your thoughts out there for all the Pacific Islander women out there that what should they know? Um,
Um, yeah, man, a lot of you guys all touched on a lot of stuff already. I'm like writing everything down, trying to keep up with y'all. Oh man, but I guess one of my things that I would mention, to be honest, is just to be abstinent as long as you can. Like, honestly, because that is 100%. Like, that's 100% effective. Okay, to keep you, but like honestly, yeah, I say that too because like once you do lose your virginity, you do end up kind of like, I don't know, I guess what they call it. You get that, at least that was kind of my thinking. I was thinking, but like when you do lose that virginity to that person, you kind of get, I don't know how you say, like not like,
Mostly attached.
yeah, there you go. You get really attached to that person once you do
Yeah.
lose your virginity. I don't know if that's true for all of the women, but I know that, yeah, I think for me, anyways, that's what happened to me in the beginning. But yeah, so I would say that's why I would, mention abstinence as much as as long as you can, girls. It's worth it. So that brings me to the second point: to have patience. Honestly, have patience in finding that partner and your lifetime partner. Definitely take your time when selecting them, because it's truly worth waiting for. It is, honestly, I believe that. very much so. It's worth waiting for. You're worth it. Just know that much as well. All right. Then the right person is waiting for you as well. So just take your time and yeah, and do that. So people honestly they get married up to like they get married after 40 now, right? Like there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Shoot. If it takes that long, hey, why not? All right. I think it's a beautiful thing to wait for. And then number 3, I guess I would say like speak your truth always. All right. Like no matter what, like you gotta yeah, no matter how taboo it is, right? I know, like you guys mentioned, our parents have grown, like, they grew up in a different era, right? But then we have now. So yeah, just speak your truth no matter what. Um, Lay it all out there on the table. Yep. What you want, what your needs are, what, your goals are, like Luisa said, because that does matter. And if they're not really going the same way that you're going, then you guys will end up, right? Like literally going into different, directions. so yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much, all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Trudy. I was actually gonna bring that up, but you brought it up. Because I think it's an important conversation to have. You talk about, for a lot of girls, they lose their virginity, and a lot of times, the men that you lose their virginity with, a lot of times, there is studies out there, there is science out there that shows that when women have sex, there's this chemical that's released for you to emotionally attach to that man, right? So a lot of times when you lose your virginity to a guy, you're very emotionally invested, and sometimes you fall in love with them. But the problem is for a lot of women, if you don't have the conversation to select a good man with your parents, unfortunately, a lot of women they have sex, they lose their virginity to a bad guy, and because of how they feel chemically as a woman, they try to, and they try to make it work, and then of course if they get pregnant, have a kid with that guy, most women, I think you guys mentioned that they want to be with the father of their child, so they try to make it work when, even though all the signs are showing that he's probably not uh, a good person for you. So I do want to open up that for everybody out. I do want to open up the topic for you ladies real quick. Is that, I know Trudy brought it up. Is that true? Based on your experience when you lost it to your first person, did you really feel attached to that person where you kind of overlooked certain things or certain qualities, certain red flags, or is that just something that depends on the situation? But I've heard from a lot of women that when they do lost it to their first person, and unfortunately it wasn't a quality guy, they kind of try to force it to make it work with them. But it didn't. But it wasn't after years of bad toxic relationship they finally learned to let go. But is that a real thing? I wanted to open up to you ladies real quick. I'll start with you, Luisa. Is that a real thing?
I think so. Something I learned growing up with my church background was something like every time you did it with someone, you're literally splitting you, like not splitting, but like they're taking a piece of you and you're taking a piece of them. So that one time that's split half. Do it again. Now you're a quarter. Keep doing it. That's when you tend to lose yourself, every single time. And you take something every time you go, do that with that significant other person. You also take something from them as well. Like you'll kind of like add on from the different people that you go with. Good things, bad things. You'll take bad habits, good habits. But it's really important who you are going down that road with. Yeah. Because for me, yeah, that definitely, you do get attached, but because I grew up with that, knowing that was going to be something that happens, once I decided to take that road, I always had to remind myself, like, I know I'm going to get attached, but just know, like, not to like go into it. Don't what do you call it? Don't be so stuck on whoever that person if it doesn't work out. Because, learning from generations, my grandmother, my aunties, my uncles, or just anyone older, you kind of learn from them, their relationships that they've been through and how many marriages, many whatever that they go through. You kind of learn and take away like you kind of spend too much time when you're stuck on that first person, whoever. So don't get too attached if you know you're not going to do it in a marriage. Like if you're not going to do it, get married and then go through that. You know, usually you should be feel safe because that's your safe person. But if you're going to do it out of marriage, just expect to be hurt if anything doesn't go through.
All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Luisa. I'm gonna pass it to Leesah. What do you think, Leesah? For girls out there when they engage in sex for the first time, as a woman, do you feel like a lot of these women get emotionally attached to the guy if they never experienced it before, and then kind of overlook all the bad qualities?
Oh, you're muted, Leesah.
Oh, you muted, Leesah. Oh, yeah, yep.
Yeah, I think we're emotional creatures from the get. So of course we get attached, even if it's sexual or mental, with other people. But in regards to myself, I didn't get attached. I think it's because I've been around men. I think the starting was 14, where I was able to really see the different types of men out there, and I was lucky enough to actually um, weed out men and see their personalities from the get, so that when I did meet my husband, which I met at 18, and I'm 35 now, we're still together. I knew how to, when I met him, luckily that I met him, that I understood the traits that he had. That's exactly what I wanted, so that when that intercourse did happen, because that is extremely sacred, I got attached to him. So I think it's just like connecting a man that has those great traits to sex. It's more meaningful that way. And even if you do have those experiences where you do have sex before you actually find your true significant other, or you do get married, those experiences are valid as well. Those are learning experiences. It's more so like I tell my daughter, your virginity is the most sacred thing you could ever have. And so in knowing that that's sacred, you have to give it to somebody that's worthy of it. And those conversations have to happen when you're young, so that you build up that confidence within young girls to understanding that who they are as a little girl and growing up into a woman, they're worth it. That's worthy.
I want to ask you this, Leesah. Shout out to you and your husband sticking together for all the way to your 35, man, and that's great to hear. You said that you build that value with your daughter, to value her virginity. How do you protect that when she's growing up in America, in a society and a culture today where it's influencing a lot of girls to go do the opposite? Like how do you navigate that? Because a lot of girls, they see all these things on social media. It's everything's sexualized. Everything's about going out there and the sexual liberation. And for all the girls out there right now watching this right now, that they want to keep their virginity and save that for a good man that's willing to be a great father and great husband. How do they protect themselves from all these things that are influenced by social media?
You truly can't protect your child from moving a certain way. But what I did was, when my daughter was 3 and she understood things, I started affirmations, positive affirmations.
Yeah.
When she turned 9, I started having conversation about sex and boys. My daughter's 15. I've been lacing her up since she was 3. So at this point, at 15, I'm telling you, like, all that conditioning has made her who she is now, where I've given her all the tools that she needs in order to navigate through life, navigate through all these bullshit men, understand who she really is. That's the best I could do as a parent. And what she can do now is actually take it and receive it and apply it within life. And that's the best you could do. Because of course, we live in Western society. I grew up here in America. I know exactly how it is to have pressure with your peers, pressure from men. I know all of these things. So I think it's just the best thing to do is just actually give those tools to your children and to other young people. And let's see how, and it's their life. Now
Yeah.
it's your turn to actually take that and apply it within your life. You could take it or you not, or you can't take it. It's just it is what it is.
Yeah, great. I mean, I love what you shared. You started those conversations early, and you
Mm-hmm.
gave them the tool, and you prepared them for it. At the end of the day, they have to make their own decision, right? But
Hmm.
they understand what they're getting themselves into, right?
Right.
And I love, and like, if you're doing something that's never, you're doing something that wasn't done with your parents. You're doing something new, and I think that's really important in our Pacific Islander community. Like, if we want these changes to happen that didn't happen with our parents, it's us up to us as the new generation of parents to take the responsibility in implementing these changes and solutions. So
Yes.
man, I really appreciate that. That was great to hear. They started at a very young age, and I think that's something that we need to do as Pacific Islanders: be more communicated with our kids at a younger age, because we all grew up with our old traditional parents. The tough love,
Right.
there's no communication. The tough love, if you grew up with the old parents, like, yeah, I didn't hear nothing from my parents. It's just
Right.
when it's time to eat, or if I messed up. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Lisa. I'll pass it on to Monica. Monica, what do you think? Yeah, like, add on to, like, girls out there, sometimes they get attached with they never go into sex for the first time, and they just, choose bad guys and they fall for those guys.
Um. Okay. So, um, I, I would say that not everything is black and white, right? So there's an array of color. Um, I think that the main reason why women tend to get attached to men that are bad, that are their first time, is based on society, social norm. I'm
Hmm.
not a feminist because I'm not a white woman, but I'm letting you know right now that
Period.
I'm not, and I'm letting you know right now, there is a social normacy around women and their first. If a woman is no longer with their first, that means that she has two more times.
Hmm.
And so there's this complete normalcy that it's innate in women for us to feel shame. Okay, and so I'm gonna say that as far as biology goes, and as far as, like, all the statistics on women feeling, well, there's biology is, you can approve and disapprove things, but I will say a stat, and it's on the CDC, and 1 in 3 female rape victims that experienced sex for that first time, basically they had their first time being raped, and so I don't
Yeah.
believe that they are going to be totally attached to that person because of sex, which that's why I don't really agree with that. I don't really think the act of sex is what keeps women feeling attached. I think that it's the mentality of sex and the social norms that keep them in a place of normacy. When it's out of place, women don't feel normal based on societal norms. So that's my outside. And if you need the stats, I will send it to you. Well, I sent the other stats to your email because I'm using my phone. So, I sent it to
Send
your
the
email.
stats, mains. Send the
Yeah.
stats,
So it
girl.
was 1 in 3. So that's why I don't believe that it's biology in a sense of, like, the whole penetration thing. Because 1 in 3 females that are raped and that's their first time having sex, I don't know.
Mm.
I'll have to disagree on that entirely.
Okay. All right. No worries. Thank you for sharing that, Monica. I appreciate that. And yeah, we'll definitely have those stats. I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna open my email and post it on the live chat for everybody out there. Yeah, pass it to you, Lani. Lani, what do you think? In your experience of, like, girls experiencing sex for the first time, if they don't prepare for it, do they often just, fall for the guy, for the first guy, and no matter how, even if it's a bad guy?
Um, can you repeat that one more time? Sorry, I was trying to process that in my head.
No, like, no, do, like, if when girls experience sex for the first time,
Mm.
do they usually just uh, get emotionally attached to the guy, and sometimes even if the guy is a bad quality guy, that's they just gonna be attached to him until they learn the hard way after years of experience. Is that a real thing?
I think within certain communities, it is like, for example, in the Mormon community or the LDS community, which I was raised in, I think that's a very real belief that a lot of people have. Like the first person that you have sex with is also the first person you have to marry, and if any of you know, divorce within uh not just the Polynesian community, but within certain religious organizations, is not very accepted or looked on with, oh, wow, you got divorced. So I do believe that there is that belief system. However, as I've had my daughters and going through what I've been through, I would personally would like to teach. Well, I've taught my daughters that things happen. Yes, you should save yourself for marriage, and yes, you should wait and potentially find the one, but not everyone does that. I didn't do that, obviously.
Yes.
And so instead of putting the focus on you need to be a virgin and wait until you get married to have sex, I rather turn the tables and have that conversation of if you don't if you do decide to have sex before you're married, here are the things that you need to do to protect yourself from, STDs, STIs, unwanted pregnancies. Here are all the things that you need to do. So I understand the importance of, because in a way, I do feel that giving up your first time is a very special and sacred thing. But because the way I was raised, I remember there was a analogy someone used, like, of a cupcake. Like if you have sex with somebody, it's like someone's licking the cupcake. I mean, licking the frosting off the cupcake. And it's like, would you give the cup? Like, would someone else want to eat that cupcake? No. Well, then that's how people are gonna see you. If you're not a virgin, you're a cupcake without no damn frosting. Or other analogies as girls that wait to have sex before they're married is like the apples on the top of the tree, and the ones that don't are like the ones in the bottom. And guys go for the ones at the bottom because they're the easiest to pick. There was all these kind of analogies that we were taught, and so as a young woman who did not wait to have sex, I had really bad self-esteem issues, and I struggled with that for years, even until I got married to my current husband. I still, have certain issues that I struggle with that is connected to that. So I do believe that, some girls do get connected to, the guy that they first have sex with in some cases. But at the same time, I don't think that should be like, come on, we're in 2022. Like, not everyone's a virgin. And if you're not, it's okay. If you are, it's fine. But your sense of value and your sense of worth shouldn't be predicated upon whether you're a virgin or not. Because like Monica, have pointed out that there's many women that, sadly their first time was with a rapist or a child molester, you know. So yeah, again, I think it's true in some cases, but at the same time we should be switching the narrative to, not focus so much on virginity. Because I tell my daughters, hey, me and your dad would love for you to wait until you're married and you have a career, to have a family and, start doing things with boys. But if you don't, use protection. Don't make me a grandma at 41. I don't want to be raising no grandkids. Like, please don't, use protection. I ain't no babysitter. Like, I tell my daughters that all the time, like, protect yourself.
No worries. Thank you, Lani. Hey, Lani, did you learn that? Where'd you hear that cupcake example? Did you hear that at seminary?
No, it's actually Young Women's. That's right. That's what someone told me. Like,
Yeah, I like that one.
That
now
was
that I
nuts.
think of it, I'm like, that's so messed up. I'm not no damn cupcake. Thank you very much.
I like that. I
They
like that
stay
one. I like that.
they stay having analogies for women, don't they?
Yeah, no, exactly.
all the time.
But
All
I
right.
wanted
All
to
right.
add to
Go ahead. Yep. Go ahead, Leesah. Go ahead.
no, I wanted to add to Lani. Yes, we're in 2022, and um, like I said, how your virginity is sacred, as well as if you do give it to somebody else, make sure that person is worthy of that, of taking that from you. But like I said, we live in 2022. You do what it do, but just make sure that you're protect. Yeah, that you're safe, you're protected, you're mentally stable in a way that you understand that this man might not be that man. So
Mhm.
just all those variables.
Okay. All right. No worries.
So
Thank
yeah.
you so much. Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate that. I'll pass it on to you, Trudy. Trudy.
Oh, I thought I already kind of.
Oh, sure. Did you already go already?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I
Yeah, yeah.
brought up the topic earlier. Yeah, and then I.
Hey, what's your topic? Yeah, what's your topic? No, cool. No worries. Thank you. Thank you so much, Trudy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome shares.
No, I wanna pass on. I wanna go back to something that Lisa brought up in the very beginning. I think you brought up, Lisa, that a lot of girls um, don't believe that they have options, right? So I know traditionally for a lot of women, if they're taught in the community, if you the first guy you have sex with, you have to be with him. If you get pregnant, you have to be with him. So of course, there's a lot of religion that goes into our beliefs of choosing partners. So a lot of times, and of course, I think for oftentimes a lot of I do realize there's a lot of Pacific Islanders. They grow up with their parents that they may have toxic relationships, but they see their parents still together, even in that toxic relationship. So they think, okay, my parents never got divorced or never separated, even though they saw that that relationship was toxic by their parents. They feel a lot of women feel the need to like, I gotta, I can't, there's no option. The only option, I have to make this work no matter what happens to me. So yeah, can we talk about like the for women out there to understand that there's the option, like you don't always necessarily, because when I do talk to a lot of Pacific Islander women, for a lot of them, I do feel when I talk to them that they don't want to leave. They don't want to leave. They feel like they have this some obligation to themselves, obligation to their religion, obligation to their family, obligation to the community, that they have to make this work no matter how the partner treats them. And then of course, if you want to throw in mental health there, like a lot of Pacific women that I talk to, also a lot of them are, have very insecure issues, insecure with their bodies, mentally, emotionally, physically. So a lot of times, a lot of women, it's they want to stay what's familiar, what's familiar with them, instead of going out there and trying to find a new man. They don't want to do that. It's more comfortable to be with this guy, this relationship that they're used to, instead of feeling confidence in themselves that they're beautiful enough to go out there and attract another a better man. So, but yeah, I want to dive in that topic real quick when it comes to they need to know they have options if the relationship is not a healthy relationship for them. So, can you open that up real quick, Lisa?
Yeah. Options. I think it's difficult, right, when you were raised with parents who do have that toxicity within that relationship and still stay within it. And then you add our
Yeah,
religion and culture to it because we're a collectivist culture. We believe in family, we believe in helping each other out. There's so many aspects into being Tongan that I love. But the other things as well is like a lot of the generation, like my parents' generation, I know they're toxic, but they still are together till this day, and so you take that with you into your relationships, and then you think that's the norm. And then
mm,
when you think that's the norm, you tend to continue to be in that relationship. Well, my parents did it, I'm going to do it. But then in realizing, us modern women, like the first generation that grew up here in America, we understand that we do have options because there's a lot of resources out there for us women in regards to upward mobility, in regards to employment, in regards to there's many men in this world, and that's vice versa. That we do understand that we do have options
Mhm.
and it's out there. But it's difficult because it comes from a child seeing that firsthand and then thinking that's okay, and then we tend to just keep going on living in this relationship that's loveless, that it's not exciting anymore. You're not thriving in it. You're just it's just the worst thing to do. So yeah, to stress the fact to these young ladies, you do have options because, like I said, too many resources out there for you not to have options.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it. Leesah, I'll pass on to you, Luisa. Luisa, what do you think about having options and in your experience as well? What do you think?
Yes, girls, you do have options. I would say, let's see, if if girls decide to go, first person, like I know some that can get so stuck on the first person or the first person that they did with, but I'm like I don't know, like you gotta. I'm always gonna say peace. When you can find peace and move on, like know that it's ended, it's not gonna work. You gotta move on. Know yourself. What you like, learn from what that relationship or whatever, and take away what you want in the next relationship or hope to be your final relationship, whatever. There's options. You learn from everything that you did before and you just kind of take it to the next. So don't get stuck. Oh my gosh, I would say so many young girls, I'm gonna bring it back to American Samoa, I've noticed they get so stuck and they get to that point where it's like suicidal and everything. But then I'm just like, girl, this is a small island. There's a whole world out there. We are stuck with our community, the community that you're stuck in. I don't know, you kind of get stuck when you're young. When you're young, you think that's all that there is to life. But I'm like, you guys are so young, like go see the world, get out of your community that you grew up in and know that there's way more guys, compared to what you grew up with. Because what you grew up with, like, generations, you're going to think, oh, that's the type of person that I have to look for. That's going to be the person I'm going to go with. But like, no, you got to get out of your community because sometimes, like you said, it's a toxic, generational thing that you grew up in. You think that's normal. But like, you guys got to get out. I say, like, when you're young and, you're able to be out on your own, get out of whatever you grew up in and just see the different type of people. There's different people who have different backgrounds that you may not be used to, but if it's what you want, as a person in your relationship, whatever. Like, I'd say this, my parents, my mom grew up in American Samoa. My dad grew up in Tonga. Tonga, I feel like they have like a really huge respect when it comes to their sisters, mothers, aunties. Like, you can't sleep on the same floor, can't sleep in the same room. Where my mom, she grew up where, everyone just grows up with each other, same room. There's no like complete, no guys, girls, cross the line type of thing. She had to get out of her normal generation that she grew up with and go somewhere else. And like for them to clash, I don't know, like my dad had so much respect where she came from, they didn't have as much respect, what she was used to. So it was really new for her. And yet when they found her, like it was just perfect for her. And yet she had so many relationships where it was kind of the same type of person that she grew up seeing. So like, I just got to say, get out of wherever you grew up. If it was toxic, there's more to life. See that different view. You might just find the person that was meant for you. I would say that's one thing I grew up and noticed.
Hey Luisa, I have a question for you because one of my followers from Instagram sent me this message. I know you mentioned you have a kid. Do you feel like a lot of girls, once they have a child, they try to force it more to make it work with the baby daddy because there's a lot more. I guess if you have sex, there's a lot of shame and judgment and criticism from the community. But then having a child and not being married, having a kid out of wedlock, there's more pressure on you to get married and more pressure on you to make it work with the father. So in your experience having a kid, do you feel like there's more pressure you have having a kid, and
Yeah.
from people that you have to get married, you have to make it work with the baby daddy. Do you feel it's more pressure once you have a child?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of pressure, but me knowing and like seeing so many, others before me and how it didn't work out, I was like, I'm not going to be pressured by this because I'd rather have, I always say this again, peace. If there's no peace, like you got to make sure there's peace. So when it came down to my situation, I was like, I'd rather stay on good terms. Let's not try to force this marriage, not try to force anything, that we may not want to go down later in life. So I rather let's stay on good terms. We're good on each other, good with each other. Main focus is to be my child. As long as he's well taken care of, that's all that matters to me. The relationship can, later on develop. But again, I don't want to see negative sides where this family is clashing on this family, my other side's clashing with this side. Because we started so quick, we didn't realize there were differences, So it's better to like just slow it, build it. If you don't build it, it's not gonna really, I don't know. I'd say I chose to just wait. As much people that kept pressuring me to like get married, I was like, I'd rather, stay at peace and not let it lead into a divorce. Because then, of course, that's going to affect my child, if anything, later in life.
Okay, no worries. Thank you so much for sharing that, Luisa. I'm going to pass it on to you, Monica. But I also want to add this. Somebody did send this to me, and I want to get Monica's response, and also from everybody else's response. You also think about this because we're talking about options. Ladies, you guys should always have options, and take advantage of it. But one of the girls asked, like, do you feel like as women get older, do you feel like that a lot of times as they get older, they find it harder to find the type of man they want or to date? So even though it's good to have a mindset of abundance that there is not, you don't get your options, but they one of the girls that follow me said the police a lot of times women like they take too long in their 30s or 40s. And as you get older, for a lot of women, even though it is still possible to find a guy, but she's an older woman. She said that when she got older in her 40s, it was a lot harder to date in her 40s and 30s to find the type of guys that she knew when she was in her 20s. So there should be a good balance of, okay, I should have options, but don't try to drag it too long. So just have that. Yeah, I want to hear your answers about that also. Monica, what do you think about the having options and biological clock as you get older?
That's a hard question, but I guess there's two answers to that. There's two. I think that stereotypically right now, I mean, we're in a time right now where media runs everything, and I mean, honestly, I think that Rihanna was really great for like putting an older woman in her ad to be a model, right? Because I think what happens is as women get older and as men get older, men are actually more desirable when they get older, and women are less desirable, and that's a social norm, right? Just like I said earlier about the whole, being attacked, the detachment or whatnot. That's a social norm as well. And so, with that being said, I don't know, because it depends on what it looks like, right? Because if I'm thinking about it, right, now there are women that are very older that I know, right, that are in their 50s, and they look very, very good, very, very young. And this is shitty, but it's very true. Men are visual. Doesn't matter if the apple is old, if it looks new, it looks new. Like, that's just what it is. Okay. It might taste a little different, he bites into it, but men have a inability of comprehending. Have a inability of comprehending that salt looks just like sugar, and sugar just looks like salt looks just like sugar, and sugar just looks like salt. Right. So there's that. That's really on them. So there's that. That's really on them. That's really on them. And so that's really on them. And so yeah.
Monica, there's an echo real quick. There's an echo real quick.
I don't know why. I don't know why.
I'm just trying to figure out there's an echo.
Yeah.
Can everybody put on mute? Besides Monica. All right, go, Monica.
Am I still echoing? I think I'm still echoing. I don't think it's me though. Is it me? Okay, I'm not echoing anymore. Yeah. So, like I said, men have this inability to understand that salt looks just like sugar, and sugar looks just like salt. So you might use it and you think it's sweet, but it's salt. And it's an upside and it's a downside. But I think for as women, we have to realize that we have to get into a mindset, right? It's just not that serious. Like, it's just not that serious. Calm down. Like, if that's where you are right now, if you're feeling like it's hard to get male attention because you're older and this and that, you're gonna have to look at the reality of it. And the reality of it is exactly what I said. Therapy is really great. Get a therapist, talk that shit out, because you can't necessarily, especially at an older age, you can't rely on anybody else to make you happy. Because if you truly are happy on your own, people are just going to gravitate to you, no matter if you look like a new apple or an old apple. So, I mean, that's just it. That's just from my observation. That's just from a couple of like NIH sources that I have online. But as women, we have to start realizing that the whole concept of, gaining men approval, it's just not that serious. Based on exactly what I said, they like it. It's very visual. So even if you're if a vast majority of men is stuck on visual, right? That just means that you can think that it's important to a certain extent. You can think that gaining a man's approval is important only to a certain extent. And after that, it has to stop based off of that fact. So that's really all I can say. But I would say therapy is really good. Talk it out, because there's something else there. There's just something else there, especially if you're in an older age and you're feeling like you're lonely, or you're feeling some type of sadness, right? Yeah. You got to talk that out. And I think therapy is great. I think that it's very necessary for men and women in our community. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
All right, no worries. All right, thank you for sharing that, Monica. I appreciate that. I'll pass it on to you, Lani. Lani, what are your thoughts about options, and obviously for a lot of women, also like it gets harder as they get older to date. What do you think about that? Oh, just unmute yourself. I know I'll do it. Go ahead, Lani. Oh, you're still on mute.
Okay, there. I think it's interesting because you kind of went over this topic when we had that other podcast about the single moms and how a lot of single mothers, as they get older, it's harder for them to date. You know what I mean? So I feel this is like kind of in that same genre. I don't know. I feel like there are options, after you've had your first time, or if you get a divorce. But I feel like at the same time, you shouldn't just jump into any option that comes your way. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we had that conversation too about how um I think I forget that Daniela's wife, when she was talking the last podcast, and how she, how after the incident that she went through with her child's father, how she used that to better herself and to not repeat the same mistakes that she did the first time. So I feel
Mm.
like that's important. Like, yes, you have options. Like, yes, if you leave a terrible, relationship, or if whatever is going on with you and your significant other isn't working out, like, yes, there are options. But the thing is that you can't just jump into the pond and expect to swim. You need to figure out what you can do to make things better for you, if that makes sense. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely agree with you.
like learn from your mistakes. Because a lot of times, and even in my own experience, like some girls, they leave one relationship and they just go with the next guy that, that seems better without fully vetting what he was all about. And and it goes vice versa with men and females.
Mhm.
So again, I feel like, yeah, like options are important, and maybe as you do get older, it does, I don't want to say it becomes harder, but I think like for single moms, it's very different. Like for me as a single mom, I know that, and especially when I was a single mom with a daughter, dating for me at that time is very different than a single mom who has a son,
Mm.
or, a woman that's, divorced and she doesn't have kids versus a woman that's divorced and she has 5 kids. So I think it depends on the person's situation, or the woman's situation. But all in all, I feel that if you are gonna leave your relationship and and get into something else, learn from your past mistakes. You know, go like how Monica said, get some therapy.
Mhm.
Work on yourself, and if you can find someone else, then that's good. If you can't, then there are a lot of fish in the sea. But what I see as well is that sometimes, and it's not just women, but it's men, but we kind of, I don't want to say we hop from person to person, but when you don't figure yourself out and change what's and when you don't figure yourself out and you don't work on yourself enough, you're going to keep repeating and making the same mistakes
Mhm.
and the same decisions. You come up with the same outcomes. So
Mm.
that's the only thing that I have to say. If you want to change your situation, and yeah, there are options out there, but just you know do and make better choices, or else you're gonna
Um,
keep doing the same exact thing.
I
Yeah.
just
Monica,
wanted
you
to
may
pick.
ask.
Yeah,
Yep.
I do. And just from a personal experience, like my mom, she got married at like 58. Like, like she did. So, like, finding love at an older age, being an older woman is hella possible. Like, I mean, yeah, and he's younger than her. Like, not hella younger, but like 5 years younger, And all I'm saying is like, yeah, that's the social norm. But like, my mom really did get married like 5 years ago. Like, and she's really happy. She found somebody. You know, they're together. She's living her life, and so that's I can testify for that. So whoever wanted to ask that question, there you go. I mean, my mom is like living proof. But that's also because she's like an upbeat person. She's happy. She's positive. She don't let nobody stand in her way, and she doesn't listen to nobody that she don't need to listen to or that she doesn't find intelligent.
Yes, yes.
All
See,
right. No worries.
I have to differ because, like, well, I don't know. Like, my mom, she's been single since I was 3 years old, and she never got married or dated anybody after my dad passed away.
Uh,
And I don't want to say it's because of her looks, but my mom when she was 12, she was a burn victim, and like 80% of her body is covered, like in scars. So she's had a very traumatic childhood, and I don't want to say that contributes to why she doesn't want to get married. But I know from my mom, and I know for some women, it's just not, it's just not an option for not. It's not that it's not an option.
Mm.
It's just not like for them.
Yeah.
And my mom
Yeah.
is also very like headstrong, and we come from a very matriarchal family, and our family is like, I don't need no man. I can do it my own self, which is
Yeah.
great. It's great at some points, but I'm like, then you're going to toxic femininity. But that's a
Mm.
whole different conversation, though.
Mm.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Lani, and thank you for sharing that, Monica. Also, and Trudy. What do you think about the women in understanding options, and also they struggle to get older? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Man. All right. So, I would say, yeah, just never be content. I mean, I think that's not a good thing, honestly. And don't feel like just because, your parents, been or whatever, like whoever in your family has like stuck by, their significant other through all this crap, that they've been through, that you have to do it too. Because I do know like a few, family members that do feel like just because their parents, been through hell, him, hell and back, like they have to deal with that crap too in their marriage, and it's not true. Um, and then there was a quote that like there was like two quotes that stood out when everybody was talking. All right. So you don't grow in comfort zones, right? I don't know if you know that, but we don't grow in our comfort zone. And then another thing that stood out, it was a quote. It said, give your kids the right to tell you when something, that you're doing is hurting them without being defensive or dismissive. Like that stood out for me. And then another quote I wanted to add is like, it says, when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. So yeah, honestly, I love that. But so you're not gonna be everybody's cup of tea, right? Like that's just bottom line fact. You're not gonna be everybody's cup of tea. But I feel like there's one out there for everybody. There's that one person for somebody out there for you. So yeah, just keep going until you find that person. I believe that, yeah, like, being older, like, and getting married, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, honestly, I love the idea, actually. And then yeah, and if you don't think that there is somebody out there for you and you're like giving up, like everybody was thinking, like saying, like, then yeah, there is therapy. Yeah, I would say, yeah, definitely reach out and get that help, because there is something else going on. Yeah, like I think besides, all the other things that we mentioned. But yeah, that's all I wanted to add to that. Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you for sharing that, Trudy. I do have a public guest that wants to jump on. He wants to just share some thoughts and question people. But before I let him in, um, I did have somebody DM me this. I want to ask you, ladies, do you feel like a lot of Pacific Islander girls only want to date only want to date Pacific Islander men? Are they open to date other outside the race? I know this may be an uncomfortable topic, but sometimes dating outside a race, our people can be racist sometimes when you date somebody, other people besides your own race, and that's a real thing. But we can be racist towards, especially when it comes to black people. I've seen that with my own family. When my cousins had kids with the African American men, so this is how they view them. So to you guys, like, do you guys only want to date? I mean, I just want to ask you guys, like, do you see that most Pacific Islander women, do they only want to date Pacific Islander men? So sometimes that's the problem with Luisa in the island. If you're in a small island, all Pacific Islander men. But like I said, there's a big world out there. There's so many men out there. There's options out there you can go. If the men or the community that it's not if you don't find the type of men you're looking for, then maybe it is a good idea to try go outside your race and try something else. But I know for a lot of women, when I talk to, they just want a islander, they just want a poly. But I think for that conversation is maybe it's good to go outside, and regardless of how your family thinks on, well, maybe if they are racist and they say some racist stuff towards dating somebody that's outside. What do you think of what are your thoughts about that, real quick, before I allow the public guests to come in? What do you think, Leesah?
Um, I mean, a mixture of feelings. Of course, like Polynesians are racist, period. Especially the older generation.
Yeah.
Just being colonized and religion coming into the factor and all those things. It was already it was there, and then you bring it out here, and of course, Polynesians would want you to date within, and that's with every culture. But I think it's more open. My husband, he is black, and my kids are half black, and majority of my mom's side of the family, they do date black men. And then of course my dad's side, it's a mixture of Tongan, white. I mean, it's just a whole bunch of mixture. But I think it's just dating outside of your race gives you a better understanding of other people's cultures, giving you a better understanding of perspectives, and then as well as trying to educate your parents or your family members in the ways that they say things, because they don't know that what they say is sometimes racial.
Yeah.
And so having that conversation and having a better understanding of that is great too. But yeah, sometimes I do see it's a mixture. A lot of Tongan women want to stay within. Some Tongan women want to date without. I think it's just your own preference. But then also I wanted to talk about what you said about biological and how youth and attractiveness.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on that real quick into saying that, us women, we're so analytical that we forget men. It's just, it's simple. Attractiveness to men is key. Youth to men is key. It's very simple. And when you understand it, then you understand how you can maneuver with the dating scene. So yeah, attractiveness and youth brings childbearing. Of course, you want to have children. So then youth comes with you're able to have children. As soon as you get older, those numbers decrease. As well as keeping it real society wise, women get older, it's not as attractive or your options do lessen, depending on how you look. And that's real life. The thing of pretty privilege. Pretty privilege comes in all ages, especially when you're pretty and you age. Yeah, you have those options, not as much as if you were younger. But yeah, options do slim down when you get older. Options for men increase because yes, economically, like financially, you guys, the growth usually comes at least end of 30s to 40s. So yes, for women, we're attracted to that because we're attracted to providers. So I think that's how that dynamic works.
Oh, thank you. You could have said it better. You could have said it better than myself.
Yeah.
For sharing that, Leesah. There is an echo. All right. I'll pass it on to our next person. Luisa, what's your thoughts about dating outside your race? What do you think about that, real quick? Just some final thoughts before we conclude. What do you think, Luisa?
I grew up in an environment where there was a lot of mixed races, like everyone meeting different nationalities and meeting. Obviously, I'm one of those. There definitely was racism, from one side or the other. Maybe one side more, but not the other. But definitely that's an option for sure. To date out of because sometimes one thing that I learned in one of my relationships was someone said for me to appreciate my culture, I had to be like away from we call it the islands, whatever. So sometimes when you mix with another race, they tend to help you appreciate your own culture more, or they just appreciate your culture for you, and then, kind of gets to you. So definitely that is something I think is to date out of your race, since I did grow up in that.
All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing that. Monica, what do you think about getting outside? Oh, did I ask you that already, right? Oh,
Okay. Can you hear me now?
yeah, you're here now. Yep. Go ahead, Monica.
Okay. You must. You have to. We're in the U.S. We're in the U.S. and we're at 0.1% here in the U.S., which means, well, the majority race here is whites. And I think that is what, 60, 70%. Then it flows down to Hispanic, African American, Asian, and so it, when it comes to dating, it's about the numbers, right? Because you don't want to close yourself off to just one, because when you close yourself off to just one particular group, that means you're going to be more susceptible to meeting people that have mental challenges, a lot of like these low income issues, right? Low income issues, a lot of these like issues you'll run into. And so what I see in observation, and there are some certain like studies, right? Is a lot of Pacific Islander women, when staying within their own race or within the Polynesian realm, we tend to flow into, issues of domestic violence, poverty, all this other stuff. And it may just be because we're shutting ourselves off from the rest of the world. You're in the U.S., and so it's a much larger range. And so you're gonna have to think we're in the U.S. like, even though this is what you're accustomed to, and I believe that you're always going to be attracted to somebody that looks similar to you, because genetically wise, you're going to want to exchange with them, because that's what your biology is telling you, that's going to make a healthy child. Yeah. But in the sense of being where you're at now, and if you want a certain type of lifestyle, depending on whatever lifestyle you want, depending on whatever man you want, you're going to have to look outside of your racial norm. And so, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, because I know girls right now that they live in Arkansas and Michigan and they still want to date polymen, and I'm like, good luck.
I mean, you're only gonna see them on the internet, like, or like, when you go to sleep in your dreams. Like, I mean, that's just you're closing yourself off from like the rest of the world, and although it's healthy because it's very innate and it's very biological, but at the same time, you have to you have to think in the reality of things. Like, the reality of things is the U.S. there's population rates, and you're going to have to look at them, and you're going to have to figure out, like, the larger race in some sense have not better quality, but because it's larger, you're gonna want to just you're just gonna have to want to ask questions. You're just gonna have to question that, right? Because I'm always about questioning stuff. So you're gonna have to question whether is it worth it? Is it not worth it? I don't know.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, nothing wrong with dreaming. You can dream.
Right.
All right. Lani, real quick, final thoughts on getting outside a race. What's your thoughts about it? And then what do you think, Lani? Oh, you're mute. You're mute, Lani. Okay, let me see if I can do it from my end. Can you talk now? Okay, we'll come back to you, Lani. Trudy, what are your thoughts about dating outside your race? What's your final thoughts?
Um.
Data.
Okay. Oh, is there? Okay. I thought I was hearing an echo still. Okay. Well, I guess from my experience, my dad was kind of like racist in a way, like towards, yeah, like, dating outside, right? Like he would, yeah, especially if it was like a black guy or something, he would be like, oh, you better not bring like this and this over. I'm like, okay. But anyway, it's weird because when he did that, it kind of like made me date black guys anyways. So when I was like in middle school and like high school, I kind of like, like little puppy love thing. It wasn't really anything serious, obviously, but they were always black guys. So yeah, but I always went for the football players, basketball players in middle school. But anyways, yeah, I think honestly, like, but when I grew older, like I kind of like just really wanted to be with somebody who already, understood my culture and my traditions, of being a Samoan, because we do have a lot of things, falavas and all kind of stuff that we do. And then, yeah, like, giving up money and all that stuff for funerals. You guys all know about that, I'm sure. But yeah, so I think that's really what it, yeah, came down to really for me. And then I ended up, yeah, just with my Afghasi. He's half Samoan, half white. But I think that's just pretty much, yeah, what I say about that. But if I were to have children, which I don't know if I can still, but because I am 33, turning 34. And yeah, so if I were to have children, I mean, like, I would definitely just be more supportive of them, and let them, speak up on who they love and so forth, and have them consider all of that, that we've all mentioned. So yeah, that way, yeah, it
No
wouldn't be.
worries.
But yeah,
Thank you
thank you.
for sharing, Trudy. Yeah, Fatty, thank you for being patient as a public guest. I know you've been listening to the conversations with the ladies tonight. I know you just wanted to add on something real quick and share it. Go ahead, Fatty, real quick before we conclude conclude the show.
Hello, how are you guys? It was just a question for Monica and a remark. I think the problems that you have are not cultural, because to be honest, I was watching the show for 2 hours, and we have the same problems here, and I live in Portugal, so these problems are global.
Right.
Only very traditional societies on the Middle East that are usually not uh, touched by these problems, but even they are having the same too. So I would preach accountability, because usually that's a problem, because we can talk about everything that's happening outside. Oh, the weather did this, and is because my boss, and because my ex, and because my dad, and because I didn't have a father, and because. But the problem is, most of the 2 hours that we were talking here, usually is about talking about the environment. Trudy said one thing that is, if the flower is not blooming, you need to change the environment. I think it was what she said. But the problem is not that, Trudy. The world is not going to change for anyone. The world, you change for the world, not the world for you. That's the thing. I can be fat, I can be short, I can be broke. The world doesn't give a shit about me. Either I go to the gym, either I get money, if I don't better myself, I'm going to be stuck. So I would like for you to have a little bit of accountability on the self-reflection part. Think about what you need to improve before you think about all the stuff outside. And to my question. Monica, did I understand that you said that 1 in 3 women? Can you tell that stat again, please, so I can understand, so I can just, because I think it is very 1 in 3 women. If the United States has 166 million women, that's 50 women that got raped. 50 million. Are you sure about that number?
I mean, if you want the CDC site, sir, for sure, you can have it.
No, I'm just asking you because 1 in 3, it means that there's 50 million women in the US right now.
I know.
Do you think
you pee in your pants?
Do you really think that's a truth stat? Do you think that sexual harassment, like I was groped, somebody called me, because that's sexual harassment, that's not rape. You are misreading the stats just to have a point, and that's a major problem, because there's no way in hell that half of the population, men population, is doing this kind of stuff that you are talking about.
Are you getting mad?
No, I'm telling you, 0.00.
I don't know. I hear a lot of feelings in your voice.
Yeah, but this is
because I can easily send this to you, sir.
No, this is what you're
Easily.
doing.
And then you can read it over and over again.
Listen up.
You can read it over and over and over again.
Will, you don't have to call me out. You have to call her out. She's making this personal. It's not me.
I'm definitely not making this personal, sir.
No. She just said like that's the stats that she read.
No,
that's
the stats that is on here.
Okay, let me just finish. Let me just finish what I said, then I'm gone.
You sound very, very taken with this.
Yeah, I understand.
Those
stats are false.
Are they false?
There's no way.
You're trying to say that CDC is a false stat.
The stat is talking about sexual harassment, like your boss calling you, like somebody gropes you at a club. It's not 1 in 3 person that got raped. It's impossible. 50 million women got raped for 0.00 point of the man population. How can 0.00001 of the men population that are rapists are doing this to 50 million women?
Sir, this is facts, not feelings. And like I said, I can send you the stat.
Stats, not feelings. Manipulated stats, not feelings.
That's not feelings. Yeah. Facts, not feelings.
Okay, you can go. You can have it.
All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing your piece. Appreciate that. But nevertheless, we have come to the end of the show. Thank you so much for you guys just tuning in, and appreciate all you guys on the live chat.
I sent you the stats. Share the stats with this man.
No, I don't need the stats.
Okay.
Oh, it's all good.
Fair to you.
All right, no worries. All right. But yeah, thank you so much. Shout out to you guys in the live chat, and then shout out to the ladies. Thank you so much for having a conversation tonight. I appreciate you guys for the conversation, open dialogue for you guys. But let me pass it in to you guys. Ladies, what's your final thoughts for tonight's podcast? And how can people find you if they're watching this right now? They want to find your support in the platforms. Can you guys go ahead? I start with you, Luisa. Luisa, what's your final thoughts, and how can people find you, Luisa?
Can we pass? Sorry.
No, just to close. Like your final thoughts from tonight's conversation, and how can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Luisa.Sipinga, Sipinga. That's tongue and spelling. I think it was good to see all the different sides of you, like, single, married, divorce, seeing all the different sides of, when it comes to like being forced into marriage and all that stuff and whatever we were kind of going over. But thanks for having me.
And how can people find you, Luisa?
Instagram, Luisa.Sipinga. I think that's the only one.
No worries. Thank you so much, Luisa. Appreciate you. Pass on to Leesah. Leesah, yeah, what's your final thoughts? How can people find you?
Final thoughts. This is an amazing platform. So I give it up to you for sharing this platform for us to have this type of dialogue, because it's much needed within Polynesian voices. So that's all I have to say. It was a pleasure meeting you ladies. You can find me on Instagram at x1blessedxxv1 or Facebook Leesah Havili.
All right. Thank you so much, Leesah. And I appreciate your energy tonight. Appreciate the energy tonight. Passing it to Monica. Monica, what's your final thoughts and how can people find you, Monica?
Final thoughts. Great conversation. I think it's good to share the platform with these ladies. Leesah, thank you so much for joining us. I am so happy that you're here. We are definitely going to be doing some different things in the future. I think that one thing that I want to start doing, especially for PIs, public health is going to be my career, and so sharing public health disparities, knowledge of public health issues is my main thing. So whenever I'm on here, or if ever you see me on anywhere else, you will always hear me say things, but also things with backup facts. So, yeah. Thanks, Will. It's always great to be with you on here. Always good times.
No.
Yeah.
And all right, thank you so much, Monica, and I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. Lani, final thoughts and how can people find you, Lani?
People can find me on Instagram. My name is Lani Ciliato. Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yep.
And sorry, I had to leave because like we were having technical difficulties on this side. But I just wanted to like kind of go back to the part about how whether Pacific girls want to date within their own culture or marry within their own culture. So a quick history lesson as a Native Hawaiian in Hawaii, in order for us Native Hawaiians to have land or to own land or to own or lease a home on Hawaiian Homes land, we have to be 50% or more Native Hawaiian to do so in order to be on the waiting list. In order for our children to inherit the home that we build on the land, they need to be 25% or more Native Hawaiian to inherit, to be able to gain that home. So when it comes to whether we are kind of told as young children to date and marry within Native Hawaiians, that is true because for us, that's survival right there. Like for my children to, because since we're in Alaska, for my children to inherit the home that I was raised in and that my mother had bought, you know, as a single parent, my children need to marry a Native Hawaiian. And if they marry a Samoan, a Tongan, you know, a Palangi, whoever, that house, the government is allowed to take that house from them. So when talking about dating outside your race, yes, we should broaden our horizons, but for some of our people, it's very much a survival skill of whether or not, especially for Native Hawaiians, if that land and if that home is going to be there for our children. So yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Sharing that, Lani, and I appreciate you for sharing that piece that was going on in Hawaii. Thank you so much. And then Trudy, last but not least, final thoughts on how can people find you, Trudy?
Yeah, so it was really nice. Yeah, like Leesah said, it was really nice to meet all of you on this call for the first time, ladies. I know, Fatty, I met you already before. But yeah, this is, an amazing platform. Grateful to be on this call this evening. You know, it's been, a pleasure to just, be able to share our voice, right? Because that's what we're here for. We're really all here together to just voice what it is, you know, that we feel, feel, and then facts, of course, as well. But so thank you once again. And I look forward to being able to share this platform again in the near future. And you can find me again on Instagram, Trudy Tuitasi, and then on Facebook too, Trudy Alpha Tuitasi. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much for having these open and tough conversations to have. And thank you so much, everybody on just watching this live. Press and like that subscribe button real quick. We do this basically missed the show tonight, watch it from the very beginning, and then tune in for next week's show. We have a different topic and a different panel that we're going to discuss. I appreciate you guys. And ladies, you guys have a great night. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good night. All right. Peace.